All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Just looking at today's agenda, you had started off by looking over your human impacts on the weather and the climate. We're going to discuss that in just a second. Then today, we're also going to review some information about weather maps. I do want to go over your project homework for today. So let's look at that right now. Oh, sorry, wrong place. So remember, today is day 4. Yesterday, you should have made your predictions in both of these charts, the clouds and the weather prediction. Today is day 4, so today you are going to do the same thing like you did for day 1 and day 2. You are going to be documenting your clouds that you observe and the weather that you observe for day 4. Now, I am not going to be here on tomorrow. It's my little girl's birthday, so she turns 1. So I won't be here tomorrow. So I want to review with you what tomorrow's homework is going to be. It's going to be up here. You're also going to have information about it, but I want you to hear it from me as well. So tomorrow is day 5. So you will also need to do the same thing. Put your hand down for a second for day 5. But day 6 is Saturday and day 7 is Sunday. So for day 6, which is Saturday, you're going to need to look at the weather and the clouds. Sunday, you're going to need to look at the weather and the clouds. But on day 7, that's all you're doing is looking at the weather and the clouds, and then we'll be able to move forward from there. So today, tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday, you're doing the same thing, easy homework. All right? Yes.
Are we having Mr. Akins tomorrow?
You're going to have whoever is available.
I was about to say this.
No,
Okay.
All right. So that's the homework. Let's talk about really quickly. We're not really going to go over the answers on your assignment because this whole assignment was for you to understand what? It wasn't for you to understand math because math is that's not the class, but of course math does come into play with science. But you taking that information and analyzing it and coming up with conclusions after you analyze the information. What does analyze mean? Evaluate. Make sense of it. You got these charts, you got these numbers, you got these words. You had to put it together to make sense of the information that was there. What did you gather? One second. From all of these charts that are located here, you had charts about estimated nationwide emissions, looking at transportation and solid waste disposal and all of that information. And then you had charts that showed you how the amount of the types of pollution and how they increased or decreased at certain time periods. What did you gather from all of that? What were some of the things that you gathered from it? What's the title of the assignment?
Wow. Human impact on climate.
What's the title?
Human impact on climate.
Okay, so, and the problem that you looked at, when you looked at the very first page, it said, how do we know that human activity is changing Earth's climate? That was your focus. Once you did all of this stuff, how do you know that human activity is changing Earth's climate? How do you know? Was there any evidence there to tell you that that happened? Miracle. Don't never mind. Let's speak up. Come on. Because I'm not going to sit up here and tell you everything. You did something, so you should be able to tell me something. That's the way you show that you've learned something. So what was it that you pulled out? What do humans do? What did you see in the assignment that you did? What do humans do that may affect weather and climate?
Is it like the pollutants?
What pollutants? Be more specific.
Like
what type of pollutants did you look at and talk about in your activity?
metric tons?
Huh? That's the amount, but what type?
Atmosphere.
Like? What do we do to make this pollution? Help her out.
Some people smoke.
Okay, but from the activity, what were we looking at?
Oh.
How did we put that in there?
Okay, transportation.
Transportation, guys. Where are you at right now? Are you here in this class? Because you're acting like you're in La La Land. You got the information right in front of you, and the words that are right here on the chart are very clear. Transportation. How do we transport ourselves from one place to another, Najee? Car. Do whatever's in your mouth out of your mouth. Okay. By car, by buses. What else? Trains. Airplanes. Do all of these things require besides the bike, do these things, motorcycles, require gas?
Yes.
When you put gas in these things, do they emit some type of air into the air? Some type of pollution into the air? Yes. Now Jay brings up a good point. Some people bike. Why do you think some people bike besides exercise or they don't have a car?
Save gas.
Not just to save gas money. Keep from polluting the air. And what have we learned about these pollutants in the air from this activity?
They increase.
What are we talking about though?
Harmful.
We didn't even talk about it being harmful. We talked about that way before about it can harm your health. It impacts the weather through this whole process of something warming, global warming. So we see that all of these things that we do, some way, somehow, impacts our climate and our weather. This was the whole purpose of this activity. I should not have had to pull your teeth out to get you to see that. All right, so then let's move on. We're going to review today, or you're going to review today, weather maps. Because although we looked at some maps and you utilized a little bit of map information, got yourself a little bit familiar when you did your forecast reporting, the only information that you know so far about weather mapping, and this was more so to get you familiar with how the weather is understood to be transporting throughout areas. And when you look at a weather map on regular news, you see this information, you know about fronts, cold fronts, warm fronts, high and low pressure, stationary occluded fronts, and stationary occluded fronts, you know about those, correct? Now we need to go a little bit more in detail and get a little bit more information going in the job of a meteorologist when they have to go in depth. So if you're looking at Weather Channel as opposed to the news. So you're gonna do that on today. So your second sheet that you have in front of you, which is titled Weather Maps, you'll notice that it's in note form. You're going to be looking at information about the aspects of the weather maps, about temperature and about pressure. We're no longer talking about what is temperature. We're talking about how is temperature showed on this weather map. What type of, what do they call the symbols that they're using? And you're going to be able to describe this information as well as pressure is also. Looking further down, then there's some station symbols that they use. And when you see these types of things, it helps you understand what's going on. They put this right on here, and it tells a bunch of information in this little format here. So you're going to have to label this information on here. And then on the back of your paper, you're also going to be looking at information about radar maps, because now we're not just talking about weather in a specific area. We're now talking about climatal weather, so weather all around the world. So you're going to be describing those types of maps. You're also going to be looking at their reflective effects, and then you're going to be looking at some limitations. Some limitations that are there are ground clutter and evaporation, but you're going to be explaining those limitations. Any questions about that? All right, then you're going to need to be logging into Apex. Where you need to go is right up here for clicking to get there, and you should finish this in class today. You have the entire class period. Your only homework is to work on day 4 for your project. Go ahead and get to work.